Merhaba arkadaşlar. Hepiniz IEFT Talks seminerlerine hoş geldiniz. Bugün Hollanda'da İngilizce lisans programları ile Leiden Üniversitesi'den Caroline'i ağırlıyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede Questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Caroline, the stage is yours now.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon, this evening, your time. My name is Caroline Barr, as we've been introduced, and I work with all the incoming bachelor, master, and PhD students from around the world. So I want to talk to you today about studying your bachelor's at Leiden University. So please feel welcome to ask your questions in the question sections. If you have any questions or comments per se, or you want to share information, you can also put that in the chat. I'm always very curious to hear what you're interested in terms of the subjects that you might want to study. Sometimes the reasons that you're interested in studying in the Netherlands, those are fun to share as well. So hello to all of you who are in the audience today. So I'll get started because I have a lot of information to share and hopefully lots of time to answer your questions as well. So let's get going. Now, Leiden University, hopefully you might know a little bit about the university, but even if you don't, I wanted to introduce it to you in a nutshell because we are a large university here in the Netherlands, over 32,000 students now, actually, across 2 locations in Leiden and The Hague, and I'll talk to you about those later. Over 4,000 international students across the programs that we have in many nationalities. And we have about 130 Turkish students across the university. There's about 1,400 across the Netherlands, and that's been steadily growing for the past 10 years. So Turkey is a wonderful location for us to have our students come from. And we've seen quite a growth over that particular time. So we have a really nice Turkish student population on our campus as well. Now, we have 16 English taught bachelor programs that I'm going to talk about today. But if you happen to be interested in a Dutch taught program, you can always ask a question about that, and I'll do my best to answer it as well. Now, what makes Leiden University different than other institutions around the world and in the Netherlands? Well, we are a top 100 ranked institution. So that means that our reputation is known around the world. The high quality of education that is offered at Leiden University is recognized around the world as well. That's by other academic institutions, but also employers. So that is something that makes your degree portable and, like I said, recognizable. Now, we're the original or the first university of the Netherlands. So we were founded in 1575. So there's quite a lot of history and tradition that goes along with that, depending on your interest in this area. Today is actually what's called the Dies Natalis of the university, or the birthday of the university. So 447 years old today. So all of the processions of the professors and teachers from our main academy building through to the ceremonial events that were happening really showed a really, piece of tradition of the university. However, I think what's important for students these days, aside from that prestige that comes with that age, is that all of the programs we have on offer in English are really focused on innovation and making an impact. So whether that's societal impact or scientific impact, that focus will be shown in the programs that we have on offer, which of course leads to the types of careers that you might be looking for later on. So I think it's wonderful to know about the rankings and our reputation and the history of the university, but also knowing that that has really been focused in terms of the types of resources that we offer students. Now, in terms of the university, we have an academic environment. That means we are a research university. It means a research-intensive program that lasts 3 years at the bachelor level, and you'll have a final research thesis or project based on your own independent original research. Now, we have mainly focused programs, so you'll tend to study one topic, but of course from different perspectives, or you might also look at some of our flexible programs that are interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary. So we have lots of opportunities at the university to learn. But it is very student-centered. So even when you're in big programs that might have large lectures of 300 or 400 students, you're always going to have small lectures and tutorials of 12 to 15 students so that you'll be able to really get in depth for the information that you're wanting to study. And many of our programs are quite small scale regardless. So you may have very small classes to begin with as well. We focus a lot on interactive teaching methods. So also there's less hierarchy between you and the professor, for example. So we want to make sure that you're really an intensive part of the programs that you're studying, and that you're really able to sort of form your own opinion and bring all of that information into the classroom where you'll interact with the other students and your professors and tutorial leaders. Lots of personal support is available through the university as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that support a bit later on. Now, because of all of these things, I wanted to give you a bit of information about the kind of profile of student that we're looking for. In the Netherlands, it's very much prized for students to be independent and be proactive for themselves. So we have a lot of opportunities for students, but you do have to be willing to take that step, to have that sense of adventure, I would say, to be open-minded about others and about new ideas and sharing those things, be really engaged and critical in your thinking and in conversations and your research. I think be willing to learn about other cultures and take that information into your own life and meet other people as well in that sense. To be academically strong. So we are looking for academically excellent students, and I'll talk about eligibility a little bit later as well. And of course, that personal and social responsibility. So there is that independence and proactivity, but we want you to be able to make your planning, to be able to manage your own time, to take personal responsibility for yourself. And of course, a focus on your own personal health and well-being in terms of social responsibility. So these are the things that we're looking for in students when they apply to the university. Now, you may have done some research before today about the kinds of programs that we have on offer. And I do want to say in the very beginning that Leiden University does not offer engineering as a subject. It does not offer business administration or marketing and such as a topic of subjects either. We have agreements with other Dutch universities, such as Erasmus University in Rotterdam and Delft University of Technology. We form a super university of Leiden, Delft, and Erasmus, and they will offer some of those other types of programs that Leiden does not. So we focus on 7 faculties, and here I'm going to share for you what we offer in which city, so you can get a sense of which location you might be in, depending on the program that you're interested in. So in the student city of Leiden, we have our humanities as well as our social sciences and our natural sciences. Also, our faculty of archaeology is found here. So archaeology, our program is actually a top 10 program around the world, and it's the only full faculty of archaeology in the country. So it's quite popular for students who really love the combination or intersection of sciences as well as history and research. So students are actually digging from their first year in this program, but for students who really love, museums and curation and cultures and ancient cultures, that historical side of things is there. For students who really love that research and that digging and the scientific side of testing all the things that you find, for example, then there's also opportunities to take those kinds of tracks as well. So something a little outside the box that not a lot of students will take a look at, but it is unique in that intersection or interdisciplinary nature. Now, the humanities faculty is a top 25 faculty in the world at the university. And there's a number of programs on this list. It's actually quite a huge number. So we have what are called area studies, which are focused on different regions of the world. So you'll see here African studies, South and Southeast Asian studies, and Dutch studies. English language and culture is on the periphery of this. And they are really regional focused studies where you become a specialist in this region and you will study a language or more from these regions. You'll study the history, often the politics and economics of the region as well, the art and culture of these regions to become a specialist. And this is very important for students who might want to work in these areas or work in conjunction with these regions of the world in any kind of capacity, whether that's with major corporations, governments, cultural institutions, and more. So for some students who are interested in that type of option, and maybe you really love the idea of studying in Africa or studying this region or South and Southeast Asian studies, this might be a really great opportunity for you overall. Now, the English language and culture program also has an element of linguistics. And of course, the linguistics program is all about linguistics. So that's the study of language, how it makes us human, how we use it to communicate, how we document it in terms of extinct languages as well as languages that are currently in use. So students who love the idea of learning about how we construct all of that and how we will document that might consider linguistics as an option. Philosophy and art history are sometimes thought of as traditional types of studies, and they of course they are, but at Leiden there's a bit of a modern twist. And for the art history, it's called Arts, Media, and Society, the specialization that's taught in English. And this is really all about the last 100 years of art history, how current events and sort of life around us make an impact on what we see in the art world, and how the art world makes an impact on the society around us, the discussion pieces that we have. Think of even artists like Banksy, who makes a political statement whenever they are putting a new work in the world. Think of even social media you'll be studying, and the different types of art timeframes will be looked at throughout this particular program. And philosophy is global and comparative perspectives, which is all about the East and West in terms of the combination of philosophy. Normally, you'll study one or the other. So there is a twist there, again, looking at that impact. Now, the behavioral and social sciences are also an offer in the city of Leiden, which is culture, anthropology, and development sociology and psychology. They're both very popular. Cultural anthropology is all about groups and populations of people, how and why we behave the way we do, being able to document that, so different populations and cultures. That could be all about the digitization of the humanities, so learning how to make documentaries with film and audiovisual techniques, or it could be looking at the research side of, so field work in terms of working with different populations and studying those cultures. Now, psychology is all about the individual. So looking at, again, how and why we do things as we do as individuals, how that works when it goes right, how it works when it goes wrong. There are a number of different perspectives that students will study, everything from development or cognitive psychology up to counseling psychology, neuropsychology. There's many, many different opportunities for students to learn a broad base of psychology in this particular program. And last but not least, in Leiden, you'll be looking at the Faculty of Natural Sciences, and they offer a data science and artificial intelligence program, which is a computer science-based program all about machine learning and artificial intelligence. It will be starting in the fall of 2023, so next September. Or sorry, this September, it's 2022. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, over in The Hague is our second location, and The Hague is the International City of Peace and Justice. So all the programs that are on offer there are really focusing on these particular themes. So you'll find some sort of traditional ideas like political science, the International Relations and Organizations program, which is all about the landscape of international relations, the different organizations that are part of that, the world order, world history, a lot of analytical aspects to this, so a lot of statistics, I would say, public policy, this kind of topic. International studies is a combination of all of our area studies. So you might remember I talked about area studies in Leiden, but in The Hague, we offer international studies. And students will choose one of 8 regions of the world. They will become a specialist in that region. So again, studying a language, the culture, the history, the politics, and the economics of that region in comparison to the rest of the world. So there's an international element there. So it's really a cultural and language focus, but also that political economy focus. Very popular program. And we have some niche studies. We have security studies, which is all about crisis and security management, looking at issues of terrorism and counterterrorism, natural disasters like pandemics, for example, and also things like organized crime and how those high-level threats to security of the world really affect us and how there can be an impact on those. And urban studies, which is all about cities in its multidisciplinary. So you'll be looking at cities as your subject from 4 different perspectives. You have multiculturalism, sustainability, safety, and health. So students can come and look at the concept of cities from these particular perspectives and have quite a varied type of program. And last but not least, in Leiden, we have Leiden University College The Hague, which is our Liberal Arts and Sciences Global Challenges program. It is the residential honors college of the university, and that means students have to live and learn on campus at the LUC building for the first 2 years of their study. All the other programs, students will find housing on their own, but this is a residential honors college, and it's focused on the American system in terms of being a highly selective, but also very flexible program in terms of having different majors and minors. You can really personalize your curriculum and choose the different subjects that you might want to bring together to make your particular program. And it's also focused on the British system of colleges. So having that, again, small scale college, small scale classes, very community focused, and really working together in that particular community to make a difference in the world. So you'll see the different majors and minors here on the screen, focusing on, again, things like world politics, international justice, governance, economics and development, public health, earth, energy, and sustainability, so different types of environmental sciences, and culture, history, and society. And you can mix and match those into any combination you would like to be able to make your own curriculum for LUC The Hague. So it's a specialized program out of the 16 that we have. So that gives you a broad overview of what to expect in terms of the topics of study at the university. And I hope that something in there piqued your interest to dig further. And we have lots of ways to dig further, and I'll tell you about those later. But this is just to give you that taste to think, oh, does Leiden have something that would be a good fit for me? Is there something that makes me feel excited about studying something in those particular categories? How can I dig a bit deeper? But I want to talk about your eligibility as well, because a lot of students ask me when I travel around the world, you know, how do I get into Leiden University? What does it take? And so eligibility is based on the diploma that you're studying in secondary school. And that could be a number of different things. So I put some of the typical things that we have, that we come across, of course, from students from Turkey here on my list. You might be studying the Turkish curriculum, of course, and we will accept students at most of the programs. If you have what's on the screen here, and I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, so I apologize, I'll try. But we have the Lycée Diplomatie from Janelle Lycée with a diploma puani, or no two, of at least 80%. So looking again for academic excellence. If you're doing the International Baccalaureate, the full IB diploma with a passing grade is sufficient for most programs in the country. Maybe you're studying the American high school diploma at an American school in Turkey. We look for a 3.5 GPA out of 4, plus 3 APs with scores of 4 or 5. Maybe you're at a British school. We're looking for 3 A levels with grades of C or higher in academic subjects. We accept any of the European diplomas, so maybe you're at a European school somewhere in the region, and 40 other diplomas or so around the world. So if I didn't mention your particular curriculum, you can definitely check on our website to see what be required. But I do want to note here, that's the minimum requirement. So if you have that you can apply to the programs that we have. But if you're looking at a social science program, or if you're looking at the data science and artificial intelligence program, you will need to have some further requirements, such as your mathematics level. So it's important to double check that per program, just to make sure that you've got everything that you need when you apply. And there are 3 programs that are extra selective. So having that diploma on the last page will get you in the door, but 3 programs will be looking for additional elements. So we have 2 programs that are called numerous fixus programs, and they limit the number of students who can apply to this program. Psychology and international relations fall into this category, and they'll be looking at higher grades usually. They do a test within their selection process about first-year subjects in these programs. And the international relations program also looks at your motivation. These selection processes are outlined in detail on our website, so you do not have to remember that from my presentation today, but just to note that they are extra selective. And the Leiden University College The Hague program, which is that liberal arts and sciences college in the Hague, it is also selective. They'll be looking for higher grades. They'll be looking at your motivation. They'll be looking at letters of reference from your teacher. And there's an interview with that particular program as well. So 3 of the 16 programs will ask for a number of other aspects to decide if you're a good fit for the university. So that just tells you a little bit about the eligibility aspect of the university, but I want to tell you about a number of other aspects as well, because we've just gone through all of the academic and research information that's important to you, so you know what you can study and how you can be admitted to the university. We've talked about the history and reputation and the academic recognition of the university, which is an important peace of mind for a lot of students. And of course, we've talked about the academic student profile of the type of student we look for at Leiden. So the reason I started with these is because these are the reasons why most students say they actually choose Leiden. So it makes sense to discuss those overall. But I think that there's some secondary reasons that students will choose the university that might help make distinctions when you're looking at different universities around the world. And that comes down to the locations, the student experience, the Dutch experience itself, the support we can offer students on campus, and the competitive cost of attendance in terms of tuition fees. So I want to touch on each of these before we go to questions as well. Now, the Dutch experience itself, I think, is important because here in the Netherlands, there's very little to no language barrier. Everyone speaks English to a very high proficiency. And that's why there's so many different types of English programs on offer as well. But it makes your life a lot easier in the cities that you're going to be studying in. And of course, everyone at the university can speak English with you as well. We're on the doorstep of Europe, which means you can experience the rest of the continent quite easily. We're very well connected, certainly within the Netherlands, to other parts of the Netherlands, but also parts of Europe. So it's quite easy for students to go on road trips, to experience other countries and other cultures as well, which is really a big draw for a lot of students too. And the fact that even though English is widely spoken, there's still the cultural immersion experience, meaning we do recommend students learn a little bit of Dutch, you know, just for fun and to have your day-to-day life. It makes your experience that much richer. You may make more Dutch friends in that sense, but it's not required. It's just to, again, enrich your experience overall and really have that immersion experience, whether that's, you know, learning all about the Dutch foods, Dutch festivals, being able to experience different cities in the country, you know, something as simple as going to the tulip fields outside of Leiden, for example, gives you that different kind of immersion experience. And of course, as you may know, the tulip actually came from Turkey, and the very first tulip from Turkey to the Netherlands was cultivated at the botanical gardens in Leiden. So there's really wonderful historical connections between our countries as well. Now, Leiden is very much of a student city overall. It's about 1 in 10 is a student. It's got quite a buzz when the students are here. It's very much a medieval and historical city with the canals and the windmills and the tulips. It's a small city, 120,000 people, around this kind of range. So much, much different maybe than where you're coming from today. But we're 20 minutes from the international airport, very easy to get to. We're very close to the sea as well. We're 20 minutes from the coast. We're also located near quite a lot of different green spaces as well. It's where the majority of students are located here in Leiden. We have all sorts of different facilities, whether that's the student center at Plexus or the University Sports Center here as well. Very much a culturally rich city as well. It's where Rembrandt was born, where he studied. And there's many museums here along with that tradition of culture in Leiden. The Hague, as I mentioned, was the International City of Peace and Justice and Security, much bigger, still only 500,000 people though. Thousands of students, so it's a wonderful student city, very much a young professional city, very multicultural. We have the Beehive Student Center with the Buzz Sports Center, and they're also 20 minutes from the beach, but they have a wonderful tram that can get you out there. So a very different look and feel for the students who are in The Hague and Leiden, but students love either city very specifically. Now, student life is also very, very important for students when they are considering Leiden University, I would say. And so we start that off with items like this so that you can know that you can come and chat with me at any point. I can answer your questions. You can email me after today as well. But we have other aspects for when you actually apply and when you arrive as a student. So we have a warm welcome service where you can book to be met at the airport and directed to the city where you're going to be living and studying. There are orientation weeks in both Leiden and The Hague that are run by students so that you'll meet lots of new friends and start building your network, but you'll feel comfortable in the city that you're in and settled before you start your studies. So you'll learn where to get groceries. You might buy a bike. You'll find out where to go to classes and who your faculty are. You'll meet all the different types of people that are in your program, but also find out the extracurriculars that you can take part in at the campus that you're going to be studying at. So these weeks are very important to take part in. I already mentioned our student centers, so you have all the different services and sports that you might want, at the locations that we have on offer. Many student organizations and special interest clubs, anything from all the United Nations to the associations per program, sports, music, you name it, you'll be able to take part in it if you choose to do that and if you have time in your schedule. I highlight the International Student Network and the European Student Network here, which are social clubs for students across the university where you'll be able to meet students from other programs as well. They're primarily social, so different types of road trips, cultural events, games, nights, wonderful things to take part in so that you make sure you have a very nice balance between your work and your personal and social life so that your well-being is very much taken care of. And like I said, that Dutch experience extends to the student experience. So experiencing the Netherlands with other international students, perhaps making Dutch friends, are all a part of that particular process as well. Now, in terms of student support, I did mention this a little bit earlier, and I did talk about the personal responsibility and proactivity being a key Dutch trait, I would say. So there are lots of layers of assistance, from academic, meaning in your program, you will have study advisors and program coordinators and these sorts of people to help you make decisions and ask questions about your program, make plans ahead of time for studying abroad and your careers and so forth. But during the application process, there are people from admissions, people like myself as well, to help you with those things or to help arrange your visa, for example, if that's necessary. When you're a student, if you have a learning or a functional challenge, there's the Fenestra office that can help you with any of those types of accommodations. We focus a lot on health and well-being. So we have the Healthy University, which is all about putting things in place to make sure that you keep a nice balance in your life and that your physical and mental well-being is taken care of. We, of course, focus on career services so that you'll know the types of jobs that you might be able to be oriented towards. You'll have workshops on how to look for jobs, how to write your CV, how to interview, all these different types of skills that can help you get into the workforce as you're finishing your program or choosing a master program, of course. There are excellence programs for students who want extra challenge. And we have a housing officer that can assist you with applying for housing through the university. or finding housing on your own, because housing in the Netherlands is the responsibility of each particular student, not the university. So you will have to start early and make it your priority to find housing. But the housing officer has a housing website that gives you all sorts of tips and tricks on how to do that, and can give you information on the small number of rooms that the university does reserve in both Leiden and The Hague. So lots and lots of services overall. I wanted to come to financial matters as well, in the sense that it's very important to plan financially when you're looking to study abroad. And there's different aspects that you need to take into account. And probably the biggest cost that a lot of students will have will be their tuition. And in the Netherlands, tuition fees are determined by your nationality or your passport. So not where you live necessarily. So if you have a European Union or European Economic Area passport or citizenship, you are eligible for the lower EU fees that the Dutch students will pay. So this year, that's 2,209 euros. It's even discounted by half in the first year. If you're a non-European Union or non-European Economic Area student, the tuition fees are still very competitive. So starting at about 12,100 euro for most programs at Leiden University, the 16,200 euros tuition fee is for the data science program. And Leiden University College does have an additional fee of just over 2,500 euros, regardless of your nationality. So that program's a little more expensive because it is small scale and intensive. So it's important to note that. So it's important to double check your situation and your tuition fee per program. And living expenses can vary quite drastically. They're very similar between Leiden and The Hague per se, but when you're looking at the Netherlands, it can be quite different in other larger cities. We tell students to budget between 800 and 1,200 euros a month, and that would include your rent, your food, a bit of a social life, your travel, local travel, your insurance, bike, these kinds of incidental costs. It will not include, flying to and from home a couple times a year, that sort of thing. So you do have to budget for those kinds of costs as well. But this should give you a good idea of the cost of attendance overall. Now, there might be tuition fee loans that are available to you if you're an EU citizen. There are opportunities for that through the Dutch government, and I put a website there, duo.nl. You can look at that if you're interested in that and you have an EU passport. Perhaps there are loans in your home country that you might be eligible for as well. In terms of scholarships and financial aid at Leiden University, we have the Holland Scholarship, which is only for non-EU and non-EEA students, and it's a 5,000 euro award in the first year only, so it's not renewable, but it is for academically excellent students. There's about 20 of those that are given out each year. So if you feel that you're an academically excellent student, you can certainly apply for this particular scholarship if you're a non-EU student. Now, there is some additional financial aid that is available for students who are admitted to Leiden University College in The Hague. That's that liberal arts and sciences program. It is very limited, but if you're in need of financial aid and you're applying to that program, you can definitely apply for that after you've been admitted to the program, and you can contact LUC about the details of this particular financial aid. Now, everyone can work part-time, regardless of your citizenship. There are restrictions for non-EU citizens. You can only work 16 hours per week, and you do need a work permit, but it's still allowed to get a job, a part-time job, and it is possible to do so without speaking Dutch. And then after you finish your program, we have the orientation year, which is a year to look for a job and then decide to hopefully stay and work in the Netherlands and live here for long term. You can do this after your bachelor. If you do your master in the Netherlands as well, you can also take an orientation year after your master's. You have some time, actually up to 3 years, to go away from the Netherlands and come back to take this orientation year as well. So we really do want you to stay and live and work in the Netherlands, should that be possible for you. So the orientation is there for you. Now, before I close out and go to some questions here, I did want to share some other ways that you can connect with us this semester. We have our online open day on March 12th, so that's coming up sort of a month from now. There will be live sessions from all of the programs that I talked about. There'll be people from all over the university in the information market, so you can talk to them, about admissions and housing and all those kinds of things. It's a full day online event, so it's not in person at this point. It's all online. And if you're unable to make certain timeframes, then if you register for those sessions, you'll get the recordings later. But if you don't register, you will not receive the recording. So that's important to know. We do have experience days and student for a day events on campus, and tours will start to be available again in March and April this year if you're able to visit the Netherlands. But we have virtual tours and online experiences for everyone who cannot visit or can't visit right now to the university here in the Netherlands. And virtual tours of every faculty in each city. The online experiences are free online modules for a number of our programs, so you can try out a program to see if it's a good fit for you, if it's what you expected. So I highly recommend those. And of course, students are the ones who are studying. They know exactly what's going on. They can give you a lot of insight that you might not be able to get from a brochure or even someone like me. So we have the option to chat with a student on all of our program pages. So students volunteer their time just to be available to you. So if you have a question or you want to talk to them about student life or anything that you might want to ask them, you can click and chat with a student quite easily on our website. And of course, all the regular channels like the website, social media, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all those kinds of places you can find information about the look and experience that we have on campus. And you can always email myself at study@leiden.nl, and that's myself and my student assistants that we answer that email to help facilitate information from you. Now, the QR code on your screen will take you to the website so that you don't have to sort of type that in. So that's why that's there. But I wanted to keep this presentation a bit concise so that we would have time for all the questions that we have start to come in. So I think we can probably go to some questions now. If you haven't put your question in the question part, please do so that we can go through all of those. And I'm just going to scroll to the top of the questions here. And I'm actually going to, so Fiza had a question about housing, and I did talk a little bit about that, but she's asking, how are the living expenses in Holland, especially the housing fees? So I talked a bit about the overall living expenses, but housing fees within that are going to range anywhere between about, I'd say probably 450 to 750 euros per month of that will be your rent. And there's a big range depending on if you are looking to share facilities like a bathroom or kitchen with other students, or if you're wanting sort of a single room without sharing with people. And I would say even 750 a month for something like that is probably fairly inexpensive right now. Housing is very much a hot commodity in the Netherlands. It's scarce for international students and students in general. So pricing has gone up a bit this year. So it's good to note that you may have to start that process very early. Maybe don't be as picky as you might be and consider living outside the city centers, for example, and keeping an eye on your budget to make sure that you have kept within your budget the best you can. And you do need to arrange your housing before you arrive in the Netherlands. Please do not arrive homeless, because it's very difficult to find housing once you're actually here. So we give a lot of tips and tricks on our website about how to go about finding housing. So if you're applying to Leiden University, I highly recommend taking a look at that very, very early in your process. Murat was asking if there is an architecture master's program, and no, unfortunately, there is not at Leiden University. You can use the studyfinder.nl or studyinholland.nl websites for the programs in the Netherlands overall. So I think that you can take a look there and see what you can find at some of the universities of applied science, as well as there are some research universities, but architecture is not widely available across the country, I would say. There's just a number of very specific programs. Nakati is asking about, do you have dual degree programs with American universities? We don't do dual degree programs with any universities around the world, but there are opportunities to study abroad at over 200 partners around the world, and the US falls in that category as well. So you could definitely do a study abroad option and do that for a semester in your third year, for example. So that's absolutely possible to do. Let's see here. I'm going to keep scrolling. We have a question about offering English. Do we offer an English language preparation year? And no, we do not at Leiden University. We also do not offer foundation programs. So students do have to meet those minimum requirements. Now, I didn't talk about the English language requirements, so this is a good point to probably ask that or explain that a bit more. So I talked about the diplomas that would allow you to be admitted to the university. Now, if you're not studying an international diploma, say you are studying the Turkish diploma, we would be looking for an IELTS or a TOEFL or a Cambridge score. It depends on the program, what the score will be, but on average it's a 6.5 IELTS, and it is which translates to a 90 in the TOEFL. There's a higher score required for the liberal arts and sciences program. So that's something that you do need to prepare and study for ahead of time to meet those minimum requirements. So thank you for reminding me to bring that up as well. Let's see here. We have a question about fine arts, and fine arts is normally offered at a University of Applied Science in the Netherlands, so not at a research university. So if you're looking for a Master of Fine Arts, unfortunately, Leiden University would not offer that. You'd have to go to a University of Applied Science. We do offer the Academy for Creative and Performing Arts for students who are at conservatory level or a very high level in visual arts. We have a small number of students that will combine that with their bachelor or master each year. So if you do have a passion for art and you are an exceptionally gifted artist or musician, then you might consider the Academy of Creative and Performing Arts to be combining that with your program. Let's see here. Aileen was asking, can you apply to the university with an SAT score? It depends on the diploma that you're studying. If you're doing the American high school diploma, it is possible if you don't have access to APs to use the SAT score. The requirements are on our website for that. If you're not studying the American high school diploma, the SAT or ACT is generally not required. If you've done it and you feel that it adds something to your application, you can include it. I can't guarantee that the admissions office would assess it with your diploma, but it's always worth adding if you have it. But if you're not going to write it, then don't go out and write it just to come to the Netherlands. It's not something that's generally required or assessed for non-American students. Let's see here. I see we have a number of master students in the audience tonight. I'll be doing another master presentation on March 2nd, so you're more than welcome to attend then as well. We'll talk a lot more about master programs, and I'll have a master alum with me there. And so Farouk, I would advise you to contact the program itself in terms of the question that you have about your specific application. Generally, that the English language requirements are requirements, so that those have to be met. Those are minimums. So that would mean if you don't have a score that meets that, you would have to write another test to make sure that you meet those minimum requirements overall. Let's see here. We did have someone ask about engineering courses, which we do not offer at Leiden University. There are technical universities in the Netherlands that do offer engineering. We do have a data science and artificial intelligence program. And we had another student asking about that. This is a new program. It's starting this September. It's aiming at being a small cohort of about 150 students or so, maybe around between 100 and 150 students. It remains to be seen. Therefore, the lectures will tend to be smaller. You'll have lots of lab work, of course. This is focused mainly on computer science in your first year. And then you'll be starting to go into the artificial intelligence and machine learning aspects in your second and third year. So if you're looking for details about the content, I would highly recommend checking out the program page on our website for that. And you can locate that from our QR code here, and actually in the chat. Let me just see if I can also put the website in just a moment here as well as I get through the questions. Perfect. I'm just going to scroll here. We have a question about a student who's currently studying a particular program in Turkey and then wanting to perhaps continue the studies in Leiden. And in the Netherlands, there's not really such a thing as transfer as there would be in other countries around the world. Students who've already started a program elsewhere can apply. They still have to apply like every other student coming in. And once a student is enrolled, then the student can apply for what's called exemptions. And those exemptions will be transfer credit. Unfortunately, there's no way to estimate what you might be given by the exam committee before you arrive. Generally, there is a restriction on less than a semester's worth of credit. So for the most part, these are 3-year programs that we're talking about. So any new student is likely to have to study at least 2.5 years, if not the full 3-year program, when they're coming from another institution. The exam board will have to assess the content of the course and the level of the course as well to see if that it fits in with the program. There's very little elective space in most of the programs, which is why there is this restriction. You have to have studied almost the exact course that you might have had to take in your new program for it to be transferable. So it's not super flexible because your programs are so focused. So that's something to keep in mind. So not impossible by any means. You can absolutely apply. Lots of students apply from around the world that have already started a program elsewhere to continue their studies at Leiden. It just means you need to be aware that you may still be studying that 2.5 to 3 years to the full program once you start overall. Now, I think, and now keep asking your questions, in the Q&A. So you're more than welcome to do so. Let me just do another check here. If I've got here. Okay, so we have Noor asking a question about medical school. Our medicine programs are only taught in Dutch. So in the Netherlands, to become a medical doctor, you do need to be fluent in Dutch to be able to speak with your patients. So at Leiden University, that can be done by studying our Dutch Studies Bachelor for the first year of the program, where you'll be immersed in the language. So you will be fluent to apply to any Dutch taught program in your second year. The medicine program is highly, highly selective. In fact, it's the most selected program in the country. So there are thousands of applications for literally hundreds of spaces across the country. So it's not something that can be guaranteed that you would be admitted, but it is possible to apply to Leiden if you're, if you've met that Dutch language requirement. Now, there are a couple of options to study in English in the Netherlands at other universities. However, you still do have to learn Dutch to finish your program at the master level, because those programs are only taught in Dutch. So you could consider the University of Groningen and the University of Maastricht, but they only have 160 spaces between the two of them in their English taught program. And you could also look at pre-med tracks at some of the university colleges, which may give you access to medical programs around the world, or at some of their own institutions. But again, learning to speak Dutch is required to finish that and become a doctor in the Netherlands. So I hope that clarifies medicine in the Netherlands overall. Let's see here. We have a question a little bit more about the dual degree. And again, we don't do dual degree programs with any universities around the world. It's not a typical thing for Dutch universities to do, but we have exchange agreements and collaborations with universities worldwide. We have over 200 universities around the world that are our partners. And again, a number of those are in the US as well. So students often will look at doing their study abroad in their first semester of their third year. And of course, they could choose the US as a destination. We have students that choose many other countries, of course, as a destination. Depends kind of on what they're studying, what makes the most sense. So in some of those area studies and international studies, of course, a student will then go to study in the region that they're specializing in. That makes sense. But for all their students, it's really up to them what area they would like to study abroad in. And of course, it's not open to all students. You do have to be a student in excellent academic standing to be able to study abroad. And that's fairly normal at most universities. So some students choose to do an internship or to do a minor or to do other things, but the study abroad options are possible in every program. And yes, tuition fees are paid per year. So each year of a 3-year program, the tuition fees will be sort of what I listed. The tuition fees do change from year to year, but not by very much, I would say. For the EU fees, it's usually somewhere around 50 euros. And for the non-EU fees, they've changed 2 years ago, and it had been 5 years since they had changed them. So it's really not that often that we see big changes in the non-EU fees as well. It's always good to double check each year just to be sure of what your fee is so you can plan financially as well. Keep your questions coming in here as well. I'm just going to do another scroll to make sure I haven't missed anything here in the questions. I'm just going to double check the chat because I don't think there's any questions in the chat. I'm curious what other concerns you might have about either studying in the Netherlands or at Leiden University or other questions. We have a question here about scholarship opportunities, and yes, there are options. We have the Holland Scholarship, which is a 5,000 euro award in year 1 for non-EU citizens. There's about 20 of them that are granted each year. They are based on academic excellence. So if you're an excellent student, you might consider applying for that. It's not renewable, but it's a really nice reduction in your tuition fees of the first year. So it's 5,000 euro award. If you're applying to the Liberal Arts and Sciences program, then you can apply for additional financial aid if you've been admitted to the program. There's very limited financial aid. Usually it's partial tuition or partial living costs, but not both. But that is an option for that one particular program because they do have some extra funding for that particular program. For those of you who'd like to be in contact with me, my email address is currently on the screen, I believe. The study@leidenuniv.nl. You'll be able to reach us there, and we can answer your questions or facilitate whatever it is that you need to get in terms of information or contacts. I'm happy to try to do that. And we can get you whatever you need overall. And I'd highly recommend registering for the online open day. And I am just going to get our website here as well, just so that we can put that in the chat. And so it's easy to get to. You can scan the QR code as well. But I'm just going to give you the bachelor website as I'm just here on the screen. I should have had it up. Here we go. I'll copy that and put it in our chat for you here. Let's go here. There's the website for the university. And I'm going to also give you the particular website for the online open day, because like I said, I highly recommend it. It's in a month. It gives you time to take a look at the website, take a look at the different programs, get a sense of it, but also then it gives you time to register for the open day, tick the boxes of the sessions that you might want to attend, and plan your day, I would say. So that gives you the best overall. And I'll put that email address here just so it's easy for you to copy and paste instead of typing it out. That's the email address that you can reach us at. I'll also be sending you an email after today just so that we can keep in touch, and thanking you for spending some time with us. I do see one question in the chat here, looking for scholarship opportunity for sports or social responsibility. And there are no sports scholarships in the Netherlands because there's no competitive sports at universities. You might be playing at top level, at different country level options, but there are no scholarships associated with that with the universities, unfortunately. So it's not like the US in that sense. And, you know, in terms of social responsibility, that might be something you talk about in your motivational statement for some of the scholarships that are there, or the Holland Scholarship, but it's primarily based on merit for what we have at the university. But it's something that is always good to discuss because it gives the scholarship committee some more information about who you are as a person as well. So I'd highly recommend that if you're applying for those. That was for our Zoom. Now, I don't think we have any more questions. I think, and for Zainab, I think we're coming up to time.
All of the questions, Caroline.
Oh, one more just came in. Ahmed is asking about language examinations if you graduated from 100% English medium university. It's hard to say sort of online here at the moment. The admissions office does make those determinations, so it does depend on the university that you attended. So in theory, it likely will exempt you, but I can't say that for sure because the admissions office would have to confirm that when you apply. Good question.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation and also for the answers. You covered all of the questions.
Yeah, I think we're good. And thank you all for attending.
Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Leiden Üniversite ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adresinden Karolin'e ulaşabilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda linkleri incelemeniz de faydalı olacaktır. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, Caroline. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.